Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're literally decoding the invisible pushes and pulls of the universe. If you've ever found yourself wondering how objects actually interact, whether they're slamming into each other or floating miles apart, well, you're in the right place. We're going to master the physics of forces together with this ultimate study guide, breaking down the fundamental concepts you absolutely need to know. Let's just dive right in. Here's our quick roadmap for today. We're going to hit the rule of interaction, dive into contact forces, explore non-contact forces, do a really quick test, and then wrap it all up with your physics study summary.
All right, Section 1. The rule of interaction, forces between bodies.
So the absolute golden rule you've got to remember here is that forces just do not happen in isolation. They require interaction. When two bodies interact, they exert a force on one another. Think of it like a two-way street. You literally cannot have a force generated by a single object just acting entirely alone. That interaction itself, that is the exact birthplace of the force.
Moving on to Section 2. Understanding contact forces, the power of touch.
Now, a contact force is exactly what it sounds like, honestly. It's a force exerted when two or more bodies are in direct physical contact and interact with one another. The absolutely crucial takeaway here is that they require a physical connection. Actually, scratch that. They literally demand a physical connection. If the objects aren't physically touching, it simply isn't a contact force.
To picture this, just think about a heady ball rolling across a flat floor. Because the rolling body and the ground are rubbing against each other, they're in direct physical contact. An interaction occurs, and that physical interaction generates friction, which, as you know, eventually slows the ball down. Because of that direct physical touch, this frictional force is definitively a contact force. Fact is, pretty much all types of frictional forces fall right into this category.
Okay, Section 3. Exploring non-contact forces, invisible pulls.
This is where things get kind of magical. A non-contact force is exerted when bodies are far away from one another, have absolutely no direct contact, but still manage to interact. So physical distance doesn't stop an interaction from happening. The universe just has, well, other ways of connecting them.
Imagine an airplane cruising at a really high altitude. There is zero direct contact with the ground thousands of feet below, right? Yet, believe it or not, they're still interacting. Thanks to Newton's universal law of gravitation, gravity is constantly pulling them toward one another. So even an airplane way up high in the sky is interacting with the ground far below. It's a perfect everyday example of a non-contact force in action.
The fundamental dividing line between these two main types of forces really just comes down to a single, simple question. Do they touch? On one hand, direct contact obviously requires physical touch. But on the other hand, non-contact forces allow bodies to interact from completely afar.
All right, Section 4. Time for a quick test. Apply your knowledge.
Let's see how you're doing with this. Consider a baby sitting quietly in a chair. Based on the fundamental rules we just covered in this study guide, what type of interaction is this? Think about it for a second. Are the bodies touching, or are they acting at a distance?
If you guessed contact force, you nailed it. It's absolutely a contact force. Because there's a direct physical touch happening between the baby and the chair, the interaction is fully grounded in physical contact.
Finally, Section 5. Your physics study summary, the ultimate cheat sheet.
To wrap this all up, the defining rule for contact forces is simply that bodies must touch. Friction is your classic go-to example here. Conversely, for non-contact forces, the bodies do not touch. They interact through empty space, and this is going to be driven by gravitational, electric, or magnetic forces.
I'm going to leave you with one final thought to chew on today. If gravitational, electric, and magnetic forces can act totally invisibly across space without any physical contact whatsoever, what other unseen interactions are holding our universe together right now? It just goes to show physics is absolutely just as much about what we can't see as what we can.